Transport layer. This is a very important layer for communication between two hosts or two systems. Okay, so till now we have discussed about the physical layer, and then we have discussed about the data link layer, and then we have discussed about the network layer. Now we are going to discuss about transport layer. So we'll be seeing a lot of things about a transport layer shortly. Okay, first thing, where the transport layer is located or situated. The transport layer is located in between the application layer and the network layer. So we know that if you consider a layer, and this is a layer L minus 1, and let us say this is layer L plus 1. Okay, now the transport layer, it receives the services from the bottom layer, which is network layer, and the transport layer provides the services to the top layer, which is called application layer. So this is completely the transport layer. Okay, so the transport layer gets services from network layer, and the transport layer provides the services to the application layer. There are different kinds of things which transport layer has to do. They are packetizing, addressing, connection control, reliability, quality of service, and congestion control. Don't worry, we are going to discuss about each and every of these tasks as and when our topic demands. Okay, so this is just a glance of representing where a transport layer is situated in the layered hierarchy and what are the different services provided to the application layer. Next, process to process delivery. This is the most important thing. Okay, so in data link layer, we saw that the data link layer is responsible for delivering frames, isn't it? And the delivery in data link layer is node to node. This we have discussed many number of times. Okay, next, coming to the network layer, what it is responsible for? It is responsible for delivery of datagrams, and this delivery should be done using host to host delivery. Okay, I'll show you the diagram which makes the concept more clear. Okay, so in data link layer it is node to node delivery, and in network layer it is host to host delivery. But actually the communication in the original internet is not between either nodes, or it is not between hosts, but it should be actually between the processes. Let us say, if you see here, let us say we have a system here and we have another system here. Okay, if you are sending a mail from this particular system to this system, okay, oh, will there be only a single mail process in our systems, or will there be more number of processes? Obviously there will be more number of processes, but what should our transport layer do? Our transport layer must identify a mail process in the source, and it must also identify the mail process in the destination. Now it should establish communication between these processes. Okay, so that is the reason why we are going to call it as, in the transport layer, the communication is between processes. That is, when a particular process in the source communicates with a particular appropriate process in the destination, then that is what we are going to call it as process to process delivery. Okay, so for this reason we need ప్రాసెస్ టు ప్రాసెస్ డెలివరీ. దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్, రైట్? సో ఇప్పుడు ఒక నోడ్ నుంచి ఒక నోడ్ వరకు కమ్యూనికేషన్ చేసినంత మాత్రాన మనం ఒరిజినల్ కమ్యూనికేషన్ జరగదు కదా. ఆర్ ఒక హాస్ట్ నుంచి ఒక హాస్ట్ కి కమ్యూనికేషన్ చేసినంత మాత్రాన కమ్యూనికేషన్ జరగదు. ఏం జరగాలి? నోడ్ నుంచి నోడ్కి వెళ్తూ అలా సోర్స్ హాస్ట్ నుంచి డెస్టినేషన్ హాస్ట్ కి కమ్యూనికేషన్ జరగాలి. అండ్ సోర్స్ హాస్ట్ లో ఏదైతే ప్రాసెస్ ఉందో, డెస్టినేషన్ హాస్ట్ లో అదే ప్రాసెస్ తో అదేం చేయాలి? కమ్యూనికేషన్ చేయాలి. ఓన్లీ దెన్ ద రియల్ కమ్యూనికేషన్ హ్యాపెన్స్. ఓకే, but actually at the given point of time there may be several number of processes which are working in the source, and there are several number of processes which are working in the destination. So there should be there should be a provision for this particular process. That is, let us say there is a process p1, there should be a provision to uniquely identify this process among all the other processes in the system. Okay, for this reason what we are going to do is we are going to use the concept of process to process delivery. Okay, So if you see here now, in this communication, we have the source host and this is our destination host. Okay, now there are n number of processes which are present in our source host and there are n number of processes which are in the destination host. So if you see here, this is our internet. Okay, which is nothing but network of networks. Okay, so in the internet, what will the data link layer do? The data link layer will provide node to node communication, that is from this place to this one and this one to this one and this one to this one and this router to this router and this router to last host. Okay, so this is node to node communication, isn't it? Now what will the network layer do? It will do the host to host communication. So obviously host to host communication means it is a combination of node to node. Collection of all these node to node is called host to host. But here what we are going to use, in the node to node we are going to use the physical address, or which we are also calling it as MAC address, medium access control address. Okay, in host to host, which address we are using? We are using IP address. Okay, so now our communication is incomplete if we cannot communicate from a process to process. Okay, so first of all it has to identify the host in the internet, and in that host again it has to identify the process. See, this process has to communicate with the corresponding process only. If you see here, this process only. Okay, if this process communicates with this process, then it is a wrong one, because this process is doing one kind of work and this process will be doing another kind of work. Okay, so let us say this process is sending a mail. Okay, this is a mail process. Okay, and this process is, let us say, some WhatsApp. Okay, so here this is mail process and this is some WhatsApp process. Now what should happen? This process, this mail process should communicate with this mail process only. Okay, this WhatsApp process should communicate with the WhatsApp process only in the destination system. Okay, only then the actual communication will happen. Let us say if I send a WhatsApp message from my mobile to some other mobile. Okay, so okay, I'm providing communication, I'll stop the message at the destination mobile. Is that sufficient? No, that information must be displayed in your WhatsApp, isn't it? So only then we say that the communication is complete. So communication is not complete unless and until a process in a source host communicates with the process in the destination host. Okay, so these two processes generally communicate in the form of a client server relationship. Okay, so for this reason, let us see what is a client server relationship. Okay, we have different ways of communication for achieving process to process communication, but the most common thing is the client server communication. Okay, so what will be there in a client server communication? Now let us say this is a host and this is another host. Okay, so this is, let us say, source host, this is destination host. Okay, so a process on a local host, okay, that is from where we are connecting, which is called a local host. Okay, so a process, let us say this is process P1, a process in the local host is called a client. Okay, and now this process has to communicate with the other process in the destination, right? So this process, okay, let us say this is also same process P1 and this process is called server process. Okay, this is a server system and this is a client system, and the server, the client process has to communicate with the server process. Okay, both processes, if you see the both processes, that is the client and server process, must have the same name, because they has to identify, that is the mail process here should connect with the mail process only. Okay, the WhatsApp process here must connect with the WhatsApp process only. Okay, so that is the reason both the client and server must have the same name. Okay, that is, let us say, from my client I wanted to get the date and time from the server. So what I have to say? So we need a daytime client process which is running on our local host, and this process must communicate with the daytime server process which is running on the remote machine. Remote machine means actually we do not know where the server system is there. Okay, see, when I am communicating with some let us say www.google.com. Okay, my client is communicating with the Google server. I don't know presently what is the exact location of the Google server, so I don't know the place. That is the reason I'm going to call it as a remote machine. So my client has to connect with the server. Okay, so these two processes must have the same name. Okay, so this is how a client server paradigm must work. Okay, so for communicating, so for a client process to communicate with the server process, we require the following four entities. The first one is local host, that is our local client system, and in our system we need a process. And the same thing for the remote host also. We need a remote host, and that remote host must have a remote process. So this local process in the local host communicates with the remote process in the remote host, so that the client server communication happens. Okay, next, addressing. The very very important concept is addressing. So obviously whenever we want to deliver something, we need an address, right? So when you book something in Amazon or Flipkart, obviously they are going to ask you address. Why? Because they wanted to deliver you the particular order to your destination address. Okay, so for this reason in data link layer, which address we are using? We are using MAC address. Okay, so why we are using MAC address? That is physical address. If the link is point to point link, just now we said, that is if the link is point to point link, there is no need of MAC address. But if it is a multi point link, then obviously we need a MAC address to choose which node we wanted to communicate. Okay, now coming to the data link layer, in the data link layer, what does it require? See, this is, let us say, the frame. We discussed about the frame concept in the data link layer, right? So this is, let us say, this is the actual data we wanted to transfer, and then we require source MAC address, and then we require destination MAC address. Okay, so this is at the source, this information is at the source. Now at destination, okay, so now this source is sending the information to the destination. Okay, it sends the data with the source MAC address and destination MAC address. Why the destination MAC address is needed here? Because to identify the destination, we need the destination MAC address. Why the source MAC address is needed when the source is sending the information to destination? Because if the destination wants to send the reply to the source, obviously it needs to identify from which source this particular information has come. So for that is the reason we require the source MAC address also in the sending side. Okay, so this is how the addressing take place. Now at the same thing, the similar way with the network layer also. So at the network layer, we have again source and we have destination. Again we have data, and then we have source IP address, and then we have destination IP address. So this destination IP address is used to find out the destination, and what is the source address is used to identify the source. Because when the destination receives this data, now if this destination wants to again send some reply to the source, it needs the source address. So that is the reason in this particular packet we need the source identification also. Okay, so we know that we are going to send the information in the form of packets or datagrams in the network layer. Okay, so this is how we find out, or this is how we do the kind of addressing in data link layer and the network layer. Now coming to the transport layer, so in order to identify a process, so we are telling that in transport layer the communication is process to process communication. We require a number called port number. So what is port number? See, this is our source host, so this is our destination host. So we told that we have process P1, process P2, process P3, so on up to n number of processes. So how can we identify this process? See, how can we identify this system? Using IP address. Okay, but in this system, how can we identify a particular process among all the other processes? By using the port number. Okay, so this, by using the port number only, we can identify each and every process in a given system. Okay, so for this reason we also require now the source port number and destination port number also. Okay, now, so in the internet, a port number is a 16-bit integer number. Okay, and that too, the 16-bit integer number. For this port number, we are going to use with the port numbers. We are going to use within the range of 0 to 65,535. So whatever port numbers are there, they will be in the range of 0 to 65,535. Okay, so total 65,536 different types of port numbers we can use. Okay, so now what the client is going to do, that client identifies itself with a port number, and this port number is chosen randomly. That is, if you see, again, this is the client and this is the server. So there are different types of processes, right? Let us say now this process wants to communicate with this process in the server. Okay, now in order to identify this process, what we told, it require a number called port number. So the port numbers are 0 to 65,535. So from among these numbers, from 0 to 65,535, now the client randomly picks a particular number as the port number of this particular process. Okay, so that is the concept of retrieving a random port number is called ephemeral port number. That is a random port number, that is which is temporary, which is not permanent. Okay, let us say for at a time instant t1, now the client has chosen, let us say, a port number of 50,000. Okay, and now that is to identify this particular process, the port number is 50,000. Now with this source port number, it communicates with the destination process. Okay, after communication has completed, okay, now we have terminated the communication. Now let us say at time instant t3, we are again trying to communicate from the same process to the again the other same process. Okay, now there is no compulsion that it has to again use the 50,000. It may now use some 51,124. That is, there is a provision for client to choose the port number whatever it wants. That is, it can choose from among all the 0 to 65,535 numbers. Okay, so this is how the port numbering will be done in the client side. But now coming to the server process, the server process must also define a port number. But one important thing we have to remember is that server cannot choose its port number randomly. Okay, client can choose its port number randomly from the available port numbers, but server cannot choose its port number randomly. I'll say an example why a server cannot choose its port number randomly. Okay, again take the same example. So here we have a client and then here we have a server. So let us say now we wanted to communicate with the Facebook server, that is www.facebook.com. Okay, so this particular process is residing in the Facebook server, isn't it? You wanted to communicate with this particular process. Okay, let us say, for example, we say the port number of this particular process is some 124. Okay, so when that server process is choosing a particular port number 124 for the first instance of communication. Okay, now what happens, this is not the only client which communicates with this Facebook process, right? There are lakhs and millions of clients which wanted to communicate with this particular Facebook server. Okay, so for each and every request, if the server process is changing its port number, obviously what this client should do now, it has to advertise this port number. That is, for the first intent, if it is 124, it has to advertise that my port number is 124. Okay, for the second instance, if it is changing from 124 to some 126, again there is a problem. That is, now the client has to first identify what port number, under what port number the Facebook process is, and then only it can send the information. So for this reason, 99.99% the port numbers for the processes in the servers are not changed. That is, they are sticked to only one port number. For this kind of thing, we are going to say that these port numbers are well known port numbers. When we fix a particular specified port number, that universal port numbers are called well known port numbers. That is, a mail server will be identified with only that particular port number. Okay, a telnet server will be identified with only that port number. Okay, so thus that most frequently used for port numbers will not be changed, and they should not be changed, because all the clients are, first of all, ఇది 124 పోర్ట్ నెంబర్తో కమ్యూనికేట్ అయింది కదా, మళ్ళీ ఇది 128 కింద మార్చేసింది అనుకోండి, అప్పుడు మళ్ళీ ఇది 124 పోర్ట్ నెంబర్కి పంపించినప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, రెస్పాన్స్ వస్తుందా? రాదు. బికాస్ ఈ సర్వర్ ప్రాసెస్ ని చాలా క్లయింట్ ప్రాసెస్ అనేవి ఏం చేస్తున్నాయి, యాక్సెస్ చేస్తున్నాయి. కాబట్టి ఈ సర్వర్ ఒక్కసారి ఒక ప్రాసెస్ ని ఒక పోర్ట్ నెంబర్ లో అసైన్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఆ ప్రాసెస్ ని చాలా క్లయింట్స్ యాక్సెస్ చేసుకుంటాయి. కాబట్టి ఫర్ దట్ రీజన్, ఓకే, the server processes should not change their port numbers. Okay, and these port numbers which are constant for the throughout the entire communication, these are called well known port numbers. Okay, now, so if you see, I'll say a small example. So if there is a daytime client means the client wants to get the date and time at that particular moment of time. See, this daytime client is communicating with the daytime server. See, this is the system. Okay, and this is destination system. Here we have process P1, process P2, process P3. The process P2 is daytime client process, and here also process P2 is daytime server process. Okay, so see, this process is identified with which port number? What is the port number here? 52,000. And what is the port number with which the daytime server process is identified with? The port number 13. Okay,
13.
so if you see, this is 52,000. Okay, it can choose any of the value, but it can choose only a particular well-known value. So if it has chosen 13 for this daytime server, for this particular process, for all the other times of communication, this 13 must be remaining constant, it should not change. But this client process, at this moment of time, it has 52,000. Later it can have 53,000 also, there is no problem. Okay, so this is how, what we are going to call it as well-known port number. So if you see, now the client is communicating with, the client is sending some data, and this is the destination port number, and this is the source port number. Okay, now again the server has to send a reply, right? So again it is sending some data, and it is sending the source port number. What is the source? I mean, see, ఇక్కడ 52,000 ఎందుకు స్పెసిఫై చేస్తామని చెప్పాను? Because the server wants to communicate with the client again, right? So it again uses this same 52,000, and it will send it with its own port number, and the communication happens. Okay, so this is how communications happens, by using the port number. Okay, now, so if you see how a particular port is identified within a particular system. Okay, so we have discussed in the network layer about the network layer header. Okay, so IP, that is internet protocol. So what does the internet protocol header consists of? Anyways, this internet TCP IP protocol, UDP protocol, we'll be discussing in the forthcoming classes. But for now, remember that the IP header, that is internet protocol header, consists of the source IP address, destination IP address, and so on. Okay, so the packet consists of IP header, and it also consists of transport layer header also. Okay, so in IP address, what in IP header, what will be there? The destination IP address will be there. And in transport layer header, what will be there? Now this IP header is used to identify the destination. This is 193.14.26.7, and this, in the transport layer header, we have one number called 13. In this particular system, now this 13 used to identify the process. Okay, there is another process also. This is one process, this is one process. So this 13 is the port number. So IP address selects the destination host, and port number selects the process in the destination host. Okay, so this is how actually the communication takes place actually. Okay, now, the IANA ranges. IANA means Internet Assigned Number Authority. That is, we just discussed that we have different types of port numbers, right? So these port numbers are divided into three categories. The first one is well-known port numbers. The second one is registered port numbers, and the third one is dynamic or private port numbers. If you see here, I already told you that the servers will be using the port numbers which are well known. Okay, సర్వర్స్ అనేవి ఎప్పుడు ఏ పోర్ట్ నెంబర్స్ వాడతాయని చెప్పుకున్నాము? వెల్ నోన్ పోర్ట్ నెంబర్సే కదా వాడతాయని చెప్పుకున్నాము. సో ద సర్వర్ processes must use the port numbers from 0 to 1023 range only. That is, total number of 1024 port numbers are available for specifying the processes in the server. Okay, so whatever server process you identify, okay, they will be in the range 0 to 1023 only. Okay, the next part is registered. These are in the range 10242 to 49,151, and the last range is 49,152 to 65,535. So let us see the first one. So what is the well-known port? These are the port numbers which are ranging from 0 to 1023, and these port numbers are assigned and they are controlled by IANA only, this authority. Okay, and these port numbers are called well-known ports. The server processes can use only these port numbers 0 to 1023. Okay, next, registered ports. Now these are the ports which are ranging from 1024 to 49,151. Okay, these are not assigned, or these are neither assigned or neither controlled by nor controlled by IANA. That is, IANA will not assign anything, or it does not control any of these port numbers. Okay, they are only registered with this IANA authority to prevent the duplication. That's it. And the last category is dynamic ports. These range from 49,152 to 65,535, and they are also not controlled, or they are not registered. These are registered and these are not registered. Okay, so these can be used by any processes. So I told you the client previously, the daytime client has used some 50,000 as port number, right? So this is the port number, which is an ephemeral port number. Okay, so these are called the ephemeral ports. That is, the client can choose any number from this combination. Okay, the client cannot use this combination. It can use this combination, that is from 49,152 to 65,535. The client can use any of these numbers in this port number range to identify its own processes, but the server can use only the port numbers within the range 0 to 1023, because these are well known port numbers.